this close, but you want your body to be sort of right over the top of the wheel. Put that in the middle, give it a couple of pats, and then we're going to cup the clay to get it to stick to the wheel. So, one hand on top and one hand on the side. I'm pushing down with my hand on the top and in here with my hand on the side, all the way down. So my hands aren't moving because my elbows are really on my knees and my legs are steady. So you want to steady your legs, steady your arms first. So that's stuck to the wheel now. That's not going to go anywhere. The next step is to bring it up to a cone. So squeezing opposites. Got my hands just resting comfortably in front of me. I'm really well braced. I'm going to pull at 1 o'clock and push at 7. So I'm squeezing into the center. Start at the bottom, staying right at the bottom. Now my hands are drying out, so I need more water. And then I come up a little bit. My fingers start to overlap. Stop and get a little bit more water. And then come up and overlap, overlap, overlap. And I'm working the wobble all the way up and out the top. See how the top looks worse now? Because I stayed down here long enough to kind of steady the wobble. And then I work on the middle.
You're still pushing it, so.
Yep, so I'm really squeezing opposites and then close off the top. Gently take your hands away. If you're squeezing and you take your hands away too fast, it jolts it, too abrupt. So you always have the wheel going first, then you slowly add your hands, do what you're going to do, slowly take your hands away, and then you can stop the wheel. So now to push the cone over, I'm going to push it kind of away from me and down. And this hand's the same. It's catching it. So pushing away and down. And then gently take your hands off, get a little more water. So that's better, but there's still a little wobble there. So you should do the cone thing, 2 or 3 times. Up to a cone. My thumbs are out of the way. Take a deep breath. Remember to breathe. I don't think you can feel the clay if you're not breathing. Gently. So what we're doing is we're feeling for wobbles, and your hands are strong and steady. So the clay's going to do whatever your hands want it to do, whatever your hands are doing. So if you're wondering why it's doing this, look at your foot. Maybe you're on your tiptoe, and your leg's going like this. So then your arm is so your hand is so the clay is. So if you want to fix that, plant your foot, steady your leg, dig your elbow into your side, and just push this right into the center, and it calms it right down with that hand on top. Gently take your hands away. Again, we'll do one more cone, and then I'll start. So bring it up to a cone, lean on it, bring it down. And there's lots of ways that people do this. This is how I do it and how I teach it, but you may see another teacher do something completely different. It's not wrong. Everybody has their way. So then the next step is to flatten the top. So I'm just going to put my hand on there and kind of bring my fingers across. It's like a chop. So I push down and then out to meet my other hand. The more you keep your hands connected, the steadier everything will be. You don't want to be up like this with your hands separate. Everything's blocked together. Okay, so that's it. Even if it has,
start in the center and go over?
Start in the middle. So let's just say this has a tiny wobble. That's not bad at all. You can fix it by pushing down slightly and in slightly. I'm hardly touching it. Like that's good enough right there. Okay, so then we want to find the center point. So you make a little dent right in the very middle. Some people use their thumbs. I like to point towards the middle. The tip of my finger ends up in the middle. Instead of trying to just go straight in and find it, to go like that, you automatically are directed to the middle with my thumb resting for support there. So once I make a little dent, then I take 2 fingers from either hand and I drill a hole all the way down the middle. Try to stay in the middle. If your fingers start to wobble, you're going to have more clay on one side and less clay on the other, and it'll be higher on one side. So I wouldn't continue to drill the hole with just 2 fingers because that's not all that strong. Whereas 2 hands, there's a lot of strength there. With a couple of fingers from either hand, you can stay steadier. And then gently take your hands out and check it with the needle tool before you go too far. So you just poke a hole right through the bottom, rest your finger where it's hitting the clay and lift up. So that's a little thick. I usually leave like a quarter, you know, to a little, maybe a quarter to a half an inch. So I would go a little bit farther. And you can check this as many times as you want. It's better to check it a lot than to go too far.
Okay.
That's good. That's fine. You'll see why we want to leave it that thick. So the next step is to open the bottom of it. I'm just going to do a cylinder.
Okay.
So the next step is to rest those same 4 fingers in there, make sure my hands are slippery, and pull that wall towards my back.
Okay. Wow.
To about there, and gently take your hands off. So for those of you that have been doing this, if you're making a bigger piece, like a bowl, if you've ever noticed, as you're pulling towards you, all of a sudden, it kind of gets easier, and you're like, whoa, and you've overdone it.
Yeah.
It's because when you start that pull, the wall's really thick, and you're pulling pretty hard. But as it gets thinner and thinner, all of a sudden you have to readjust the pressure because it's that much less amount of clay. So that's, you know, these steps are one thing. Then there's a whole thing about how much water to use and how much speed and how much pressure. And, you know, so then I go back and compress the bottom. And this is a really important step because usually when you're done with this, it's not even. See how it's not really flat? So you can use your fingers and flatten it out, or you can use a sponge. I like the sponge. This helps prevent cracks. Oftentimes there'll be a little divot in there, and you don't want that because that means it's going to dry faster in that little hole, and you can get a little crack in the bottom. So you want to even that out by just pressing this, you know, running the sponge back and forth. Or your fingers. Take a deep breath. Okay, I have to remind myself.
I know, I'm holding my breath.
Yeah. And then I also want to fix the top. I call this compressing the top. Just make sure it's nice and steady. And then the last step is to pull the wall up. So if you're right-handed, you want to be on the right-hand side of the pot with the wheel going counterclockwise, and you make sure your fingers are opposite. So you kind of make your fingers opposite and then put the clay in between your fingers. And you can use a sponge on the outside if you like. So then I'm going to start to squeeze from the bottom. And to get the clay to go up like a mug, I'm pushing a little harder with my outside hand.
Okay.
So gently take your hands off at the top, you know, before you slip off. You know, that's a common thing. They just sort of. So to fix that, I just do my little compression on the top. It's like a little bridge. And just hang out there for a minute and wait for that to settle down. And then so that's called one pull. So then before you do your next pull, feel your walls and see. Kind of get a sense like, okay, I've got more clay at the bottom, and then all of a sudden it gets thinner. So I know I can apply a little bit more pressure at the bottom. One thing about being at the very bottom, and I said your hands have to be opposite, well, they can't really at the very bottom because I've got the floor of the pot to consider. So they're sort of like that at the very bottom. So my outside hand can dig in slightly below, and then they join together and come up. And you can stop any time and get more water. Come up slowly and evenly. You can slow the wheel as you get to the top. That's why your foot's on the pedal, so you can control the speed. Get the water out of the bottom. Check the walls. Still thicker at the bottom. If you have an air bubble, you can poke it with a needle tool. I thought I felt one, but I guess not. But if you do, we just pop it. A little bit of water. Okay, this will probably be the last time I do this pull. Coming up slowly. Ease up the pressure and the speed and everything as you come up. I do have an air bubble, so if you look inside there, right in there, there's a little bubble. So I'm just going to pop it with a needle tool. That's from not wedging the clay well enough. Okay. So, oh well. It's really important to wedge your clay well.
And what part was wedging again?
That was the very beginning when we were kind of kneading it.
Yep, okay.
Yeah.
If you pop the air bubble, do I need to seal it up like?
Yeah, then go over and compress that area. It's usually not a problem. It's a problem when you're at the very end and you have an air bubble on your rim. You know, because then you pop it and you're going to have less clay right there. So Okay, so now I'm ready to be done and look at the shape. So it can be straight like that. There's nothing wrong with that. We can put a handle on that. Or if I wanted to curve it or round it, I'll do it on this one. So I'm gonna push out slightly down here at the very bottom. And looking at the side, kind of the profile, come up, 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 and then in. So I came out, kind of like a ball, or like the side of a circle.
All right.
You can look at that again. I don't think I'd want to really do much more than that. Except for the rim, I want to straighten up the rim. So you might want to think about this one, Ellen, on yours that you did, because it's kind of hard to drink out of something that's curved in too much. So I always take my rim and straighten it up slightly. So now it's a little easier to drink out of. And I can put the handle then from here down to there. Okay, so then I have one more tool I want to grab. So you can, sometimes people will use a wooden tool or a needle tool. I like this tool to take off this little bit of clay down here. So it looks better.
Yeah.
It's easier to take off. It's less to trim. Looks more like it's going to in the end. And then I take a little bit of water, and then I take my wire cutter, wrap it around a couple of fingers, like dental floss, push down with your thumbs, and pull that across. And then you can slide that, for a cylinder, I could slide that right onto my hand and then put it on a board, but I'm going to show you how to use the pot lifts. So I use the pot lifts, come in pairs, all different sizes, you get those wet. And then slide. And I don't go all the way under because it's hard to get them all the way out.
Okay.
Just go lightly, pick it up. Put it to one side on your board so you have room for another piece.
Okay.
Slide these out flat. Make sure you don't lift them up.
Yeah.